and welcome to The Big Picture. I am Tina Jha. 22nd of May is observed as the International Day for Biological Diversity, a day marked in the global calendar to raise and create awareness about biodiversity and its issues. So what is biodiversity? Well, it encompasses the variety of life on Earth at all its levels, from genes to ecosystems and evolutionary, ecological, and cultural processes that sustain life. In short, it is the foundation of ecosystem services, of which us human beings are a small part, along with a variety of animals, plants, and microorganisms. For almost every aspect of our lives, we depend on biodiversity. However, despite it being critical to our survival, this ecosystem has come under severe stress over the last few decades, largely due to human activity. According to WWF's Living Planet report, biodiversity is being lost at an alarming rate. The report released last year states that the numbers of mammals, birds, fish, plants, and insects have declined by an average of 68% between 1970 and 2016. The State of the World's Plants and Fungi in 2020 assessment report says 2/5 of the world's plants are currently at risk of extinction. So to convey to people the urgent need to protect nature, restore ecosystems, and establish a balance in our relationship with the planet, the theme of Biodiversity Day this year is "We are part of this solution." So how can we be part of the solution? What role can we play in the management and restoration of ecosystem services? What are the challenges and what is the need of the hour? These are some of the aspects that we will be discussing on this edition of The Big Picture with two distinguished panelists. So let me first introduce them to you. I'm joined on this edition of The Big Picture by Dr. Pradipta Ghosh, Distinguished Fellow, TERI, and former Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, and Mr. Vivek Saxena, Country Representative, International Union for Nature Conservation. Thank you to both my guests for joining me on the program today. Dr. Ghosh, allow me to begin the program with you. So the International Biodiversity Day this year comes at a time when we are reeling under the COVID-19 pandemic for the second year in a row. My first question to you is there a link between the declining biodiversity, we all know, which has come under severe stress for the past several decades? Is there a link to this declining biodiversity to the emerging diseases worldwide, such as the ongoing COVID pandemic?
Well, let me put it this way. You see, traditional hunter-gatherer communities, they have been relying on bush meat and they harvest it sustainably. And over millennia, they have learned to manage the risks of exposure to wildlife in their daily living. But when you see wildlife comes into intimate contact with people who are not from traditional hunter-gatherers, these risks become manifest because the non-traditional communities actually do not have the necessary immune protection against any possible zoonotic diseases which emanate from wildlife. Which is why I think that assuming that this present COVID-19 virus came out of a wet market in Wuhan, and there is some speculation as to whether this is in fact the case, but assuming that this is true, it is because of the exposure of non-traditional communities to this wildlife through the wet market. So this is a practice which has to stop. Now, you see, it's certainly that the situation of decline of biodiversity around the world is a matter of great concern, both at the ecosystems level as well as the species level and also at the genetic level. And this goes to the question of, adding to the possibility of catastrophic risk with respect to the stability of ecosystems. So the stability of ecosystems drives, all our life support systems, whether it is, the agricultural system, whether it is the carbon cycle, whether it is the nitrogen cycle, whether it is the soil cycle. All of these in one way or the other, depend on very complex interactions with the with biodiversity. So it is incumbent upon us that while globally we try to raise our standards of living, and in fact we try in particular to raise the standards of living of those communities who for their daily life, daily consumption rely on biodiversity resources, to ensure that these biodiversity resources are properly harvested and sustainably harvested, and that they are conserved. So, we cannot afford any more extinctions of species, that have already vanished, and we must restore the species which are on the brink of extinction or which are endangered.
Absolutely. So what are the challenges and what needs to change in our approach is something that we'll discuss in the course of the program. But coming to you, Mr. Saxena, to understand your perspective, the current situation that we are in fact, the pandemic has been very devastating for humankind. Countries worldwide have been impacted by this deadly pandemic. Do you think this is sort of a consequence of our dystopian relationship with nature that we've had? Because we've looked at data, how it is just one species, us humans, that have put biodiversity at severe stress and which is impacting others as well on this planet.
Yeah, thank you, Tinaji. As you rightly mentioned in the beginning that this year the theme is we are part of the solution. So recognizing that we have been the part of the problem, because of this planet Earth, all the species have a particular important role in the ecosystem, and which provide various type of linkages for survival of everyone. But as human beings, somehow we thinking that we are the superior. So that's why we did not care much about the nature. And in the process, we have been responsible for the degradation of the ecosystem. We have been responsible for the extinction of the species, without caring that if any species is on the verge of the extinction or if their habitat is getting degraded, what type of damage or consequences it can play. At the same time, if you think that the biodiversity plays a very, very important role, not only this present pandemic, otherwise also most of the businesses, they are also related to the sustainability of the biodiversity, because most of our food systems, the agro biodiversity, that is all dependent on the these linkages between the biodiversity, and each and every species on the planet Earth have been provided a specific role. And when we disturb all these linkages, then such type of pandemic or zoonotic threats are always there. And IUCN International Union for Conservation of Nature, let me give a little brief background. One of the oldest organizations, which was set up in 1948, has played a very pivotal role in sensitizing the global community about the threat for the species extinction. Just one of the key knowledge product of the IUCN, that is the red listing of the species, in which, based on the very robust scientific assessment of various species in terms of their population trend, in terms of their habitat degradation, the species are categorized into various categories: vulnerable, endangered, and like this, about 8 and 9 categories. That itself triggers various type of conservation actions. So now, when we, on this Biodiversity Day, we are talking that we are to be part of the solution. So in real sense, we need to be part of the solution, and we need to be caring for the nature, connect with the nature, and that should be our future roadmap for conservation of biodiversity.
Absolutely. Dr. Ghosh, so towards rebuilding our relationship with nature, since Rio 1992 to now, what has changed in terms of our efforts globally? And have we actually been able to meet any of the agenda, any of the objectives that we've set for ourselves?
You see, I am a firm believer that, people who depend on biodiversity for their livelihoods and who are in the most intimate contact with biodiversity, they must have incentives by which they gain better livelihoods from the fact of conservation of the biodiversity than from being complicit in its degradation. Now, you see, a big step was taken a number of years ago under the Biodiversity Convention when a protocol was adopted by which enabled countries to adopt intellectual property rights over genetic resources and the associated traditional knowledge. And the idea was that these rights would be given to the local communities, and thereby they would gain incentives, to actually conserve the biodiversity and not somehow, engage in activities which degrade it. Now, this convention has been adopted, but the necessary concomitant follow-up in our laws has not yet happened. And this has to happen in our country. It has happened in some other countries, but it has yet to happen in our country. For example, we do not have any recognition of intellectual property rights for traditional knowledge with respect to genetic resources. This is a big lacuna which currently exists in our statutory and legal framework.
Okay. Mr. Saxena, so when we talk about solutions and people being part of this solution, because what the United Nations has said for this year is that we need to be part of the solution. So towards this aspect, what are the kind of solutions that need to be explored, which, number one, should be affordable and also sustainable?
Yeah, as solutions have been talked everywhere, one of the key actions which the global community has taken, that after in 2010, we set up some of the targets that are also known as toward the biodiversity conservation, that Aichi biodiversity targets. And over the period of the 10 years, whatever targets were set up, we realized that none of these targets have been achieved fully. So there have been a lot of initiatives. Similarly, IUCN, in partnership with the UNEP, World Conservation Monitoring Center, recently also launched a report on the protected planet. Over this period, as per the 2010 targets, that to bring about 17% of the terrestrial land area under protected area network and around more 10% under the marine area. A significant progress has been done. Apart from this, another category of the conservation network, that is OECM, other effective area-based conservation measures, such areas are also being identified. But at the same time, the important biodiversity areas which have been identified, they have not been covered fully so far to the protected area network. Another important aspect is the connectivity between this protected area, because the species have to be protected in their natural habitats. And if there is a disconnect, or you can say threat to the corridor connectivity, there is always a threat for the species extinction. So some progress has been made since 2010. Lot of commitment is also being talked about. And now, again, in the next conference of parties of the Biodiversity Convention, which is scheduled in October this year in China, post-2020 Biodiversity Framework Initiative, they will be adopted. And the real challenge lies is whatever targets we set in, how to achieve that. For that,
absolutely, because for 2 decades, Mr. Saxena, we have been missing the targets on the 20 goals related to biodiversity. And now we have set an agenda for a century agenda as well. Mr. Ghosh, solution-based approaches obviously is something that is being worked across the world. But when we talk about the results, they're not very good enough in terms of achieving these goals. Do we need to reinvent the approach, the agenda towards achieving these goals?
So, we have to mainstream practices like environmental impact assessment in our development activities, not weaken the framework, but to strengthen them, to make sure that we do rigorous EIA assessments, in our, when we undertake not just projects, but when we undertake policies, to look at the environmental impact and the biodiversity impact of different policies. And this has to be further mainstreamed. Of course, to some extent, it has been there at the project level, but it has not been there at the regional level, or it has not been there at the policy level. And we need to go beyond that. And of course, you see, now India is a very densely populated country. And given that we still have 6% of our land area, which is a total area of the size of Tamil Nadu, which is under the protected area network. So, you see, we must be clear that there are some targets which are attainable, some targets which are not. And I think that if we ensure better management of our protected areas, better management of our biodiversity hotspots, have appropriate due diligence and environmental management plans for biodiversity rich zones like for example, the Sahyadris and so on, then I think we would be doing a reasonably good job in conserving our biodiversity.
Okay, Mr. Saxena, when we talk about India, it has been in our culture to live in harmony with nature. That is something that our forefathers used to do. Due to several factors over the last few decades, there's been that disconnect that we see between human beings and nature, something that relates to India as well. Now, when we talk about building new strategies, because clearly coexistence is something which is the way ahead. So how do we go about making it a people's approach? Because people's participation is very, very important. Without their participation, the natural resources cannot be managed. So what are the kind of strategies that we need if we are to talk about coexistence?
Yeah, when we talk about the strategies, we also have to look into the reality. To see the type of demographic pressure, the population pressure which have increased in India in terms of the livestock as well as human population. And we have limited, you can say, natural resources in terms of the water resources and other natural resources. Certainly, with the development process, there is a lot of pressure on these natural resources. And that is somehow the balance between how to ensure sustainable use of the resources and at the same time integrate the development pathways. That need to be balanced. That should be the strategy, as Mr. Ghosh has also pointed out, that in all our policies and future pathways, we have to take into this consideration that how much it is going to impact the biodiversity conservation. At the same time, the rigorous process of the environment impact assessment of the projects that is already there. But at the same time, the monitoring and the commitments towards the achieving when we implement those projects, that whether to what extent they are degrading our resources, degrading our species habitat, and how much they are harming about biodiversity conservation. That has to be the main thing. How the businesses or the corporates, they integrate biodiversity conservation concerns into their business practices. So that is also because of the need of the population, because of the development needs, certainly more and more businesses will come, and all these businesses, they are dependent on the resources, maybe the water resources, the land resources, various other type of resources. We need to have a better quality of the air, better quality of the water. That we need to ensure that at the same time, when we adopt the development pathway, we have to ensure the air we breathe, that has to be cleaner. The water which is made available for drinking of our water resources, they need to be cleaner. The rivers need to be cleaner. That only we will ensure that the marine life or aquatic life is also sustainable. And all these species linkages is very, very crucial for the survival of human beings as well as all the species. And then only we can ensure that our ecosystem services, they are sustainable. And if the ecosystem services are sustainable, our survival will be better and we can have a better future. Because if we don't integrate these aspects into our lifestyles, which we say the sustainable consumption or better or such type of lifestyle, which also take into consideration of the care for the nature. So these should be the strategies we all talk, but at the same time, there is a need to integrate all these, what we talk, also into our day-to-day lifestyle practices also.
Certainly. So an integrated, a concerted approach is required as far as this issue is concerned. Dr. Ghosh, all this while, what we've seen when it comes to biodiversity is that human beings have used it as a product, while we should have been looking at it as a community of which we are one small part of. So the damage has been done. We've seen how stressing biodiversity can have drastic consequences. We've been facing that. Now our next big move should be to achieve the target that we have set for ourselves for 2030, and what must be done on the ground by all stakeholders to ensure that we do not fail to meet this target once again.
Well, yeah. You see, we cannot, and it is not desirable to stop the process of development. But we have to be imaginative in how, while we are pursuing development, we are able to also conserve biodiversity. Now, let me give a concrete example. A number of years ago, there's the olive ridley turtle nesting sites in Odisha. along the coast. And then in the coastal waters opposite the nesting site, the ONGC needed to drill for petroleum and to undertake surveys for petroleum. And this would have caused, unchecked, it would have caused a lot of disturbance to the nesting sites. Now it's a question of could these two activities coexist? And then we consulted the scientists of the Wildlife Institute of India. We consulted the ONGC and about the kind of practices that it was feasible for them to adopt. And an action plan was developed, and there was a monitoring system which was put in place by which the drilling activity, which was necessary for our energy security, could carry on, while at the same time, the olive ridley turtles would not disturb. And of course, we can see the results after a period of maybe 50 years since that time, that in fact, we see that the olive ridley turtles are still thriving, and that the ONGC has been able to complete its oil exploration and drilling efforts in the coastal waters. So, but the point is that a certain amount of due diligence, a certain amount of imaginative, development of action plans, and also necessary the resources, have to be provided to enable these action plans to be carried out, and they have to be properly monitored. Simply declaring large areas as out of bounds for economic activity or other human presence is not going to work. That is not the way what our societies will accept. The development process cannot be stopped, but the development process can be made more responsible.
And they have to be also done in a time-bound manner, because what the scientists suggest, Mr. Saxena, is that we are in fact losing the race against time. The species are disappearing very, very fast. We have already sort of entered this age of extinction, and where we have to act very, very fast. So short-term, long-term measures for India specifically and worldwide, what is the need of the hour?
The need of the hour is conservation of a species and IUCN process of the red listing of the species that need to be expanded further for more and more species, because even in India, we need to have a, national level assessment of the species also, and accordingly, wherever we identify that these species are on the verge of extinction or there is a threat to their further habitat degradation, actions need to be triggered at the national level also, and also at the international level also, and more concentrated effort toward the species conservation. If we do that, and if we are able to improve the habitat of those particular species, so certainly the linkages between the various species, the ecosystem services which are provided by animal and plant diversity, both are very, very important. So integrated approach towards the species conservation and towards the biodiversity conservation, sensitizing all the stakeholders for integrating these concerns into their actions, their practices, the business practices by everyone. That should be the strategy and future pathway if we really have to ensure that in future to avoid such type of zoonotic pandemic which have brought entire world at crossroads, everything as a standstill. But at the same time, this also teaches us a lesson that what future we want, accordingly, that for brighter future, for sustainable future of next generation, we have to take appropriate action right now, so that species conservation, biodiversity conservation, especially when we are talking today on the occasion of the International Day of Biodiversity, and the theme being that we need to be the part of the solution. So we can be only part of the solution only if we inculcate or we pledge that we will integrate all such type of concerns and actions into our day-to-day lifestyles. So that should be the basically key strategy for taking the motto of the biodiversity conservation future.
Okay, Dr. Ghosh, one last comment from you, because the base is eroding very, very fast. We all need to do our bit. So we've spoken about what the countries must do, what kind of global action should be there. But at individual levels, where all of us are expected to be part of this part of the solution to this whole huge problem that we are facing? What should we do at individual levels to build back that relationship with nature?
Well, for a start, we should stop dumping plastic into the environment, because plastic finds its way from wherever we have dumped it into water bodies, and from water bodies into the oceans. From the water bodies, it gets into the forest, the wildlife consume it, and it causes, a huge amount of mortality in wildlife. So, these are small examples of things that we must do more thoughtfully. You see, I'm not saying that, we should stop using plastics, but we should dispose of the plastics properly. And this is just one example. There are many, many ways in which we can, which we can, ensure that we are not, in fact, unnecessarily or unwittingly damaging nature and the environment.
Certainly. And also, we can all spread awareness among each other. We can do our bit. In addition to what Mr. Ghosh has said, we can be more friendly towards nature. We can plant more trees, consume also a variety of foods in our diets, which promotes crop diversity, and also very, very significant to ensure that we do not waste food and water. We generate less of waste and also promote reusing and recycling of products as much as possible. So with that, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture today. Thank you once again to both my guests for joining me on the program and sharing your thoughts with us and our viewers. Pleasure having you on the show. Take care of yourselves and your families. We are still going through the second wave of the pandemic, which has hit us very, very hard. So it is upon us to take basic precautions to ensure our safety as well as that of our families. Stay at home if you can. If you have to go out, make sure you are double masked up, ensure physical distancing, and also try to keep washing your hands at regular intervals. These are basic precautions that we have to take to ensure our safety. So stay safe and take care of your families. I'll see you again same time on Monday. Until then, take care and thank you very much for your time.